I got a little halo. Okay, welcome at what's in your kitchen and what's available for you just, right under your nose, right under your everyday, world. I'll take a moment to, as I spent some time in my backyard this morning, just to talk about what might be right under your nose, right outside your front door. Maybe even a house plant that you didn't know was a medicine. And if I forget to tell you what that is later, you can certainly chime in. But I think I'll remember. And just looking at spices and aromatics and what are the things as we are in our home more than usual that are good for the immunity, and they might be things that you're just not adding to a broth. Or maybe, we feel like we fail when we don't know what to do with spices, or I don't know why there's so much intimidation that I notice with clients and students around throwing like 3 or 4 spices together and just what does it taste like? And you may find you made an incredible flavor and really boosted your health while you were eating. And remember, that means you were having fun. You were letting yourself play with your meals and your food. You were letting yourself, spice up your life and play with the spices. And I also wanted to take time to even consider, though mine is huge, my essential oil, world. But most people I notice have an essential oil or two hanging out in their bathroom. And maybe because I keep all my medicine in the kitchen, maybe you have a medicine cabinet like I do. One of my cupboards in my kitchen here is actually, you open it up and I mean, it is just like, whoa, medicine, ointments and salves and sprays and liniments and powders and even a few capsules that, I'm not using all the time, but I have an entire one of my cupboards that might have been for like extra glasses or something I didn't need more of. And Scott and I decided to like, hey, we should be able to open up one of these cupboards and just indulge in how we're feeling and what do we need. And the other thing we do in our kitchen, and I might leave in this video a couple times to grab a few things. I was thinking about even having y'all kind of like trail with me a little bit, but these videos are all new to me. So it's kind of, kind of cute to be thinking about what can I get away with. But I have a beautiful plate, right? That somebody I adore made me. This beautiful piece of pottery, and another one that's from Spain from my honeymoon. And they're gorgeous plates. And that's where I keep my medicine. And I just really find that if I put it in the forefront of my kitchen, right? And if I make it gorgeous and beautiful, I do the same thing in my bathroom. I see my bathroom, my kitchen, both as like hubs of health, bedroom too, because, you're sleeping and that's a form of health. But, I'm in the kitchen more than anywhere. And so have this gorgeous plate out and be able to just really want to go there and indulge and consider what do I need and what did I decide that I needed for the week, and then go to it on the regular. So sometimes I have to put those really in the forefront. I have them in a nice little corner right next to my morning beverage. People know that I do drink, 2 cups of coffee in the morning. That's me, and it feels deep to levels of my heritage and all kinds of layers of love. And I don't take that on as a bad thing. And I also see it as like, great bitters for the liver. So, you know, I have my coffee because I take my walk in the morning and then I come home. I already turned on my boiling water while I was gone. I have a safety pot so I can go take my walk. And then I make my coffee. And then right there is my beautiful plate, right? And before I have my coffee, and well before, like I do take a moment, I take in some of the things that are, you know, a little bit more of the ointments I use, or more something that's going to be, you know, in supportive to that beverage that you might drink in the morning, you know, like triphala, or thinking about some, you know, cardamom and cinnamon honey, because we start with sweet for our immunity, you know, types of things like that. And so I just thought I'd share in this what's in your kitchen. Well, guess what? One of the things in my kitchen is going to be my morning care and then my dinner later care. I may not be in my kitchen at lunch. It depends on if I'm home or not, but I'm certainly in there in the morning. I'm in there in the night. And so I have a plate for each one. You know, I've got my morning kind of routine plate, and then I've got my evening. I have to tell you, my evening routine plate is larger in the bathroom. I spend more time in the bathroom at night, more time in the kitchen in the morning. But what is right here that you may not be considering, right? So first off, all your medicine is a great thing to like, where is it? What is it? Well, your vegetables are medicine. Let's have a little overview. Let's remember your vegetables are medicine. All the butters and oils in your fridge are medicine. Every spice, every salt, every fruit, every condiment, sauce making detail. These can all be your medicine if you're buying things that really are considered medicine. And that means everything in my kitchen is medicine. Every single, even if I bought some, you know, canned tomatoes and extra garbanzo beans to make hummus while I'm home, that's medicine because it's my food and that is my primary. So let's establish that everything is medicine. But the focus I wanted to put on this time right now is, what is your immunity medicine, and what's really in here that's going to be, you know, immunity related. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can take you into my spice cupboard. If this doesn't work, I won't keep trying to do it. But dun, 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 let's come on over. Let's see. Well, a few things dropped, and that's okay. So here, I think this is kind of working, right? And then look, dun, 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 dun. We can put sliders in our door. You can get these at Home Depot. And wow, this is really harder than I expected. And I have everything labeled on the top. Everything is labeled on the top. Every single one of these is labeled. And these are all the DeAnna spices and the DeAnna Center herbs. My herbs and my spices are not separate from one another. I cook, and I wanted to talk about that. I cook with my herbs as much as I cook with spices. I see them as really the same thing. I think spices sometimes get forgotten that they are medicine. And then I have another one, and this is my bulk stash, okay? Like, this is my cardamom. Look at all this cardamom, huge. This cardamom is from Thecady, and Thecady is up in the rainforest where I'm supposed to be taking people in July. Let's hope and we'll see. And my different spices. I have something I wanted to talk about today, which is called maize. But I have these two beautiful. The lower one is bulk. The larger one are my regulars. And then I thought I'd take you over here. I have all my oils, and they're not next to the stove, right? So we don't want these to be next to the stove. And I've got some, you know, different vinegars that I love to collect. And then I collect all these oils. And then I come on over, and they're about 3 feet from the stove. And there I got my little Vitamix so I can make a sauce really quick right up with my stove. And then boom, here we come on over. Watch out for the knives. And you can see I have all my spices and my cutting boards. I've got all kinds of spices from all over the place. I'm very smart right now because what you might be able to see is right here. I have jalapenos that I'd like to talk about today. And I've got all my citruses, lemons and limes and oranges and some grapefruits and some sour apples because we are in spring. These are spring citrus, at least, are going to be spring related immunity, right? So that's just a little bit about how, oh, why don't I see if we can take you to one more spot? And right there, there's my juicer because I'm juicer. I juice every single morning, and I always have to say, excuse me, but Scott's the juicer. Scott juices. We have our copper in the back. You can see the copper in there. That's our copper water for building up our stomach fire. And then those are my beautiful plates. They might be far away, but I have two gorgeous plates right there that are very important to me. And that is just the starting of this show. I'm going to get myself situated. That's all about what's in your kitchen. And so in my kitchen, I've got things pretty well organized. And then what is there? I could have taken you into my fridge too. When you open up my door, boom, every oil, every EFA you can think of. I've got my flax and I've got my borage and I've got evening primrose and I've got pumpkin. And I got olive oil that I'm using more medicinally than just maybe cooking. And just really, and I've got all my butters, all my raw butters and my raw tahini. And if you don't know the SoCo company for raw tahini that is out of, I believe, Israel, dear friend, has stone ground traditional, like hand stone ground tahini that is now in your store called SoCo. So it's the most to die for tahini ever, but it also just smells, that's true, but it tastes like sesame heaven. When Scott first tasted it, he was like, oh, that tastes like a sesame candy, you know, just not as sugary, you know, and I was like, oh, it does, you know, which was just, So if you're a sesame fan, please look for that. Let me see, what else can I tell you before I break down a few things? Also in my fridge, can I talk about a few things that are not just my oils and butters? What about my condiments? I'm a huge fan of coconut aminos. I like the coconut flour aminos, and you just look, there's two on the market. I love them both. I love the company Coconut Secret because they also make the raw coconut vinegar. But that vinegar and that coconut aminos, and then I get also the coconut flour, budding flower resin. So I'll have both of those with my apple cider vinegar. And I just make sure that whether I'm making a sauce or a dressing or a marinade, I'm making sure I don't overcook those things. And I can just make layers of global flavor from around the world. You know, the coconut aminos turns into a teriyaki in a second. It's not as salty and briny as aminos, you know, Bragg's, which is a little intense sometimes for me. And it's not as sweet either, or I should say it's a little sweeter than like a soy sauce, you know, but you can make a teriyaki with that. There's no sugar added and it's got the sweetness of that teriyaki. I'll just put the coconut aminos in with some mustard, and gosh, that'd be a good thing to take a moment on. And some, you know, apple cider vinegar, and I'll add just a little bit of sunflower butter or a little bit of tahini instead of peanut butter, because I don't really have that in my fridge. And I'll just make this kind of nutty, you know, sauce. And then all of a sudden I'll put it over like bean sprouts and cabbage and cilantro, and I'll drizzle in one of those rice paper rolls and make spring rolls in a second. So many things in your kitchen that are literally just the main medicine and maintenance of yourself. So couple things I'll make mention of. that I really just wanted to make sure we touch on. And one I kind of touched on already, and that is looking at cardamom and cinnamon honey. So let's remember that we're kind of craving more sweets right now. Scott and I actually went into town yesterday and was just kind of like, we need a couple things, being very safe. And we were really blown away that the two things in the store that were wiped out. Okay. The two things in the store wiped out was the bread aisle and the mac and cheese. And we were like, wow, like that is very telling, on just kind of where we're going in our trauma right now, and how we're dealing with things. And so I count on honey as a super, super good friend for my immunity. And really, think about it. The bees, they know more about geometry and immunity and sharing and community than just about any species I can think of. And so if I'm really going to respect that the bees got it going on, well, then, I'm certainly going to be somebody who makes sure I really trust that honey. So if I have like a cinnamon, cardamom honey that I've made, and I always say make a hard honey. So put enough powder in your honey where it actually becomes a compacted hard jar, and just scoop out a couple teaspoons, for the day. And, that's plenty when you're eating honey. It's sweet stuff. But what I do that just to keep my digestion working, and cinnamon and cardamom are really well known for somebody who drinks coffee, and coffee can be acidic, and I'm pitta. So I know I'm not always doing the best thing, but it's definitely something that like keeps me so deeply connected to my father. I can't even describe it. And so I don't really want to give that up because I've got love in my coffee too. But I know that sometimes it'll kind of mess me up a bit. So that cardamom and that cinnamon honey, just coats my stomach. And it's traditionally put in coffee all over the world. Look at Turkish coffee, And what I did this week when I made a new honey is I added triphala, and I added astragalus powder, and I added reishi. And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll make this superfood honey, and I'll pack in kelp, because I'm really into seaweed honey. It's one of the best ways to get a high amount of protein, mineral-rich seaweed without all the seaweed kind of fishy flavor. And so I'll do like a cinnamon, astragalus, ashwagandha, triphala, and then pack it with cinnamon cardamom for great flavor. And then that way, I just made this deeply medicinal immunity honey. And that could be put in a syrup too. What if you have some maple syrup around? You know what I mean? Or some brown rice syrup, that sits around in people's fridge forever. They bought it and they got to use it. But the honey has more immunity, especially if it's raw. And so how much medicine can you pack into some old honey that you have sitting around in your fridge that are crystallized, right? Because that's why they process honey, is so that it doesn't crystallize, because honey innately, naturally crystallizes. Okay. Now think about this. That may seem like a nuisance in your kitchen, but in actuality, it is the geometric and the immunity and the intelligence of the bees and the honey they made that actually makes sure that that honey is preserved for years and years to come. And so it recrystallizes as it formed in the beehive. That's pretty cool. So you can kind of whip that, old crystallized honey. And I bet you, if you look in your cupboards, you are going to find 1 or 2 jars, and you can whip that all together and then start adding what is in your cupboard. Now maybe you're sitting here being like, I don't have reishi. I don't have astragalus. I'm not due to go to the store just yet. Well, let's get into your spices. Okay. Let's talk about what could you add to a honey, or what could you even make a tea with, or a soup broth that's really right under your nose here. So let me name a couple that might be there that maybe, like there's a couple you probably have that are brilliant right now and they're good for sleeping. And you only use them in winter holidays, which is nutmeg and allspice. Okay, so nutmeg and allspice is brilliant. That nutmeg is a sedative. It actually helps with sleeping issues. So you can make like a really strong nutmeg tea. It's also great for dreams. You know, I mean, if you take enough nutmeg, though you're going to get very overheated and sweat like crazy. Sorry, but I've tried it. But it is a hallucinogen. So it literally has this euphoric kind of slip out of your body, go to bed reaction. And that's why we put it in things like, you know, traditionally, you know, we do like the eggnog, you know, it's paired with things that are like grounding, but you can just make a beautiful nutmeg tea. And then the allspice. Allspice are those, you know, hard little seeds that sit around forever. One recipe called for it. But if you ever, there's a reason it's called allspice. First off, it's got all flavor profiles. So it has astringent, pungent, bitter, sweet, salty, you know, everything is there. And the other reason it's called allspice is because people wouldn't know if they were drinking clove, cinnamon, cardamom, or nutmeg whenever they tasted it. And so it got named allspice because it tastes like so many winter immunity spices. So did you hear that list of the winter immunity spices, since we kind of have a situation that's not just spring forward? So that's going to be nutmeg, allspice, also star anise, cinnamon, cardamom, and clove. Okay, so those are going to be your primary kind of warming, activating. Remember that we are in this middle of this pandemic and it's a cold related disease. It thrives in cold regions, right? We want the heat to come. I want some rain, but we want the heat to come because it would actually not survive as quickly, you know, as long. So with that said, every spice I just mentioned are very warming. And you want to go for more of those warming. Another warming that you could throw into a steam inhalation, or you could make a pot of soup, bay leaf and rosemary. Okay, so both of those might be sitting around in your spice cupboard right now because you made a soup a year ago and it called for, you know, 2 bay leaves. You know, but bay leaf is amazing immunity. I mean, it goes through and flushes your immune system and builds up your blood flow. And it just really creates an immune response, you know, and that's what we want right now. We want all those warming, blood building, flushing through our immune river and really helping us restore our river. You know, I mean, that's what I've been saying. I'm going to be doing a whole piece on this later this year, actually, called River Restoration. And it's about the lymphatic system and, you know, just really putting together I'm compiling all my research on the lymph and immunity and just really taking that the distance. So you'll be seeing it. It'll be called River Restoration, you know, for the self. But these are the things that move the river, you know, and we want that right now. We got to keep our flow. We got to keep cardio and we got to keep moving and we got to spice up our life because we're kind of sitting in our home patterns, trying to figure out how to get out of them and how to stay calm. And also, you know, again, like I've said, have the longevity to address, you know, what we're going to need to do as kind of life cleanup. You know, I want to be a clean vessel. If I have life cleanup ahead, if I have work cleanup ahead, if we have global cleanup ahead, I'm telling you, I want some energy and I want my immune system to be ready and strong. So again, allspice, nutmeg, star anise, clove, cinnamon, cardamom. Okay, then we have all the warming. I started with bay leaf, but we have all these warming kind of lung, like really opening the lungs. Okay, so lung herbs are more spring herbs because they're actually springing in my garden right now and they're coming up, right? Bay leaf right now are crazy, crazy fresh. Don't put a fresh bay leaf in your mouth. I don't know if you know this, but it can lock you up and stop you from being able to swallow. The bay leaf has to be dried, and it has to be the right one, and it has to be dried and then utilized. Just know that, because they're tempting to me right now, right off the tree. But bay, rosemary, thyme, savory, basil, which is not right now, but savory is up in my garden, thyme, sage, and then the rosemary and the bay leaf. So all the things we call herbaceous spices, some people will call them Italian spices or, Mediterranean spices, but really they're local. They're right in my backyard. And all of those, oh, the other one I forgot, oregano. Okay. I'm very about using oregano at the right time, especially in essential oil. And we'll get to those next. But oregano out of my garden, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm so glad I have so much. And marjoram fits in that picture too. So whose garden can you kind of, well, we're not supposed to be going anywhere, but whose garden can you raid is usually one of my main questions, and gardens are out in nature. So if you text and get the right to go over there and pick some stuff, I raid Mary Sheila Ganella. Sheila's right by me and she's a dear friend. And I'm like, I'll go over there and be like, man, she's got tons. And so I'll get supplied. So who can help you with that? So you get fresh herbs. Okay. So any of these nice, good powders in your cupboard, great. But fresh herbs are really, really important for the lung and the upper sinuses and the upper warrior lymph has to be draining for your immune system to function. So we need the lymph part of our system, and this is the where it's going to talk. It's going to talk up in the lymph if you got a virus, and it's also going to talk in the lungs. That's where it's going to reside. And so we need fresh herbs that have those fresh aromatic essential oils coming right off the leaf. So that's the most beautiful thing to me, is like you pick it. Oh, I should have picked some this morning. They're right behind me. Oh my gosh. I should have picked a few and been like, look. So maybe visualize your rosemary right now. Do you know what savory looks like? Do you know what tarragon looks like? Those are brilliant spices that'll grow in a pot in a sunny window inside your house. Like that could be what's in your kitchen on one of your window seals. You can grow thyme, savory, mint, lemon balm, literally in your kitchen if there's enough sun, because they don't even need extreme amount of heat to grow. Our local, our local weather, already is warm enough for those to continue on. In fact, my sage has been here all winter. I'm kind of like, what? So really think about those, what's right outside the kitchen and then what's in the kitchen in the world of spices. Let me see what else is on my list and how my time's going. Okay. So something else I'm going to make mention of. Let me grab my paperwork here. Oh, the other one that I totally adore here. So fennel. In India, I thought I'd give you a little India tidbit. Okay. So in India, when you go to buy fennel seeds, right? These fennel seeds are actually dipped in honey and they make them sweet, right? And they'll make like a sweet. And sometimes they'll roast the fennel and the coriander and the cumin together, which is the CCF of Ayurveda. I mean, that's what Dr. Lott has coined, CCFT. And they also make it where they roast the coriander, cumin, fennel, which are considered the tridoshic. I'm going to try to get that light out of here. The tridoshic health of your gut, since we have 3 main organs in our gut: stomach, small intestine, colon. We have the fennel, the coriander, and the cumin. Cumin helps us follow through in the colon. The coriander keeps everything churning in the middle. But fennel is stomach specific. So fennel's all about building up the hydration of the stomach. If you really taste a raw fennel seed, there is a slight salty. There are electrolytes in fennel and cumin, by the way. And then there's the sweet we kind of know from the fennel. And sometimes if you're not a fennel licorice fan, you may not mind caraway, which is another one that you can do with the coriander cumin if you're just like, I can't do licorice. But you just dry roast them until they just a little smoke lifts. And then you put them in another little bowl. And then you drizzle just a little bit of honey over it, but not a lot. And then you make a little jar of these roasted spice sweet. And it's all about, now I personally like to add salt. So I've got electrolytes, but also sweet salty. I'm sorry, but sweet salty is just so dang good. So being able to make something that has that sweet salty, which is all hydration, and lubrication, that's what salt does for us, So speaking of, well, before I go off of spices and go into salt and because that's where I'm going here. And I'm not going to try to explain all electrolytes today. I got all kinds of things you can look up. And I even have the ebook that you could look at, it's only $2.99. So why not? But I want to just talk about old spices in your cupboard. So what if you have spices where you look at the jar and half of it's like turned nothing beige and then like the other half of it is a different color, or what if you're like, I don't use this spice. How long has this allspice been in here? And you can track it to like 10 years ago. I'm not even exaggerating because I think if you really went through your spices today, you'd be amazed at how many of them, you're like, when did I buy this? And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I've been holding on to this thing for 5 years, So with that said, think about making a tea with those old spices or herbs, even old like jars of herbs. And you're like, this stuff isn't working anymore. It's still nice to use our plants, even when they're not at the same potency, the high potency, but make a steam inhalation, turn that into a foot bath, and then maybe even just make a big, huge pot of it and just simmer it up and then throw it in a bath and take a bath. All of these spices are medicine for the skin. If they're blood building and enzymatic, I don't know if you know this, but our plumpness of our skin and the quality of our skin is all about how much blood flow is coming to the surface and how much enzymes we have that are creating new cellular structures. And then the other piece is hydration. So we need hydration, and that's a lot of these spices like celery seed, awesome for hydration. I mean, anything that tastes that salty, you got electrolyte. Okay, so moving on again to that salty, we have the salty of celery seed. We have the salty of the fennel, and we have a little bit of salty in cumin seed. You're just going to have to taste them. We also have salty in all of the anise, which is again that fennel family, anise family, the caraway. So these are all going to be things that when you taste them, oh, sumac, oh my gosh, the color of my sweater, oh my gosh, sumac. If you don't know sumac, everyone around the DeAnna Center is addicted because the stuff is so good and healthy. And it's high enzymes because it's sour and salty. So you've got your enzymatic and your hydration. Okay. So that's the beauty of spices. You get enzymes, blood building, and then there's small, every different color of your spice is a different vitamin and mineral content. So you're just taking in multivitamins when you take in and build flavor in your meal. Okay. So we talked about the spices. We talked about using your old spices. Let's just take a moment with your salts, okay? I'm not going to take tons of time on salt, but everybody has salt in their kitchen, okay? First off, do you have kosher salt? Do you have table salt? Do you have iodized salt? Okay? Kosher, table, refined sea salt, and iodized salt. Those are 4 different salts that you do not want to use. Okay. Let me tell you what I tell people to do, since I haven't had those in my cupboard for years. But what I say, if you're like, oh my gosh, I have a 10-pound bag, whatever, it was cheap, so it's no big deal. But if it's refined sea salt, keep that for salt. Okay. You don't need pure electrolytes to do a salt scrub, even if, yes, it is more medicine, but keep that aside. So refined sea salt, we don't eat it, but we scrub with it, and it's great for the lymph, which again goes back to immunity. But kosher, table, and iodized salt are rinsed of all their minerals, and most of them have been bleached or reiodized or both. Okay, so what do you want to do with those? Well, salt has been used for centuries around the world for keeping foreign invaders out. Okay, like for robberies or demons or a spirit possession. Okay, and what we have been taught to do, and I've been taught this from so many different cultures, I'm like, wow, everyone uses salt. And you put a big, huge pile of salt in each one of the four corners on the outside of your home. Okay. And then often they'll make little piles of salt, little cone shaped little piles of salt right on the two sides of your threshold at your doorways. Okay. So the four corners of your home outside, and then at the thresholds. And then sometimes if you have a child having a lot of nightmares, or if you are having like where you just keep feeling like an energy keeps coming through and you're scared or it just doesn't feel right, they then put four corners of salt in your bedroom so that you're safer when you're sleeping. Okay. So instead of just being like, throw that away, no, it doesn't have a lot of value to me, but I still am going to see it as salt, and I am going to respect it as a, whatever is there, and I'm going to use it as wisely as I can. And then I'm creating protection. Okay. So what does that have to do with where we are in today's world and why we need to like get all having fun in our kitchen? Well, because this is about demons and foreign invaders. And anytime I think of somebody who has a virus, if somebody comes into my vicinity and they're like, oh, I'm really not feeling good. Do you think I'm really sick? I'm kind of like, yes, you are. Yes, you are sick. You know what I mean? And I'm going to think about like, wow, now we're in a big social distancing, but I've always been social distancing when it comes to somebody who, is out in public and they're not feeling well. Like that's just, it's not the best thing to do. And I'm going to be honest, I've done it too. Class I have to teach, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm blowing my nose through class. This is kind of silly. So I think that's going to really change for us in the future and the responsibility level we have. But these are foreign invaders. These are things that are literally foreign invaders to our body. So I'm going to use that salt. And even when I'm taking my electrolytes in the morning right now, I am like, thank you, I need this. These are not only vitamins and minerals and essential electrolytes that my kidneys need to keep water flowing through my body, but these are also things that keep foreign invaders away and have been used for demonic possessions for centuries. And I just take that really ritualistically important. I love bringing ritual and ceremony into like everything I'm doing. And so I think that really, holds true to why you might want to be more into your salt right now. I've also noticed yesterday, we were having a little bit of food outside on our beautiful patio, and we were just sitting there. We're eating a little vegetable frittata. The eggs are from our chickens, and they're just wonderful. They're right behind you there, and it was a really sweet moment. Scott and I were just like, "Wow, we have nature, right here. Like, woo, let's just stay out here," which is what we did, and we had our little bowl of salt, and I took the salt and I threw it over my shoulders, and it was like, wow, I did that without even thinking. And that's a whole nother way salt is used in ritual. They throw it over their shoulder as a way of saying, I need good luck and I need some things to be behind me. And I need to know that I'm safe. Something's got my back. Who's got my back? Salt's got my back. Electrolytes have my back because they are hydrators. And the more hydration I have, the more things are flushing through my body versus getting stuck in my body. And that's really a big part of what we want to be thinking of in the world of, salts. They're flushing out um, things that need to be detoxed while they're building up that kidney ocean water and calming down the adrenals and really making sure our blood is flowing as wisely as a beautiful flowing river in nature. You know, the other thing with salt, which is literally right behind me, I'll just show you because it's right here, but right at our back door, we have this gorgeous little, again, beautiful plate. You can see there's a little bunny for protection, and we have a whole Himalayan salt that we got in India, and I've got Hawaiian red salt, and then I've also got the black cypress salt around it. So why do we have an entire bowl of just multiple salts from all over the world? Why would I have that sitting right here, like in the forefront of my living room at the entrance of my kitchen? Salt in India and also throughout the Mediterranean, salt is put out as an offering when somebody is coming to your home as a way of saying, I share my house with you. I share, and I have riches, and my riches are your riches. And so let's remember that this comes from the fact that, you know, salt, if you've ever read the book, The History of Salt, brilliant, brilliant historical book. But we have multiple wars from all over the world that have been, you know, all around salt mines. You know, a lot of China's empire is based on salt. And there's a lot of salt through the Mediterranean and through France. There's been a lot of stuff because salt, not everybody used to be able to get to the ocean, you know? And so they would actually, it was like, you know, more expensive than gold, you know? And it is the only edible crystal in the world, you know? So let's really think about that. It's the only edible crystal in the world. So now we've talked about how honey crystallizes to protect and secure its own immunity. And now we've talked about the only edible crystal in the world where it was formed from the water, the wave of the ocean, for instance, meeting and colliding with the earth. Chloride and sodium collide with magnesium and potassium of the earth. And when water meets earth, that electric magnetic ions, the negative and positive ions of that chloride, sodium, and that magnesium, potassium make a salt mound, crystallizes. Sometimes it crystals in flakes. Sometimes we get the Bali pyramid and it literally crystallizes in these tiny little pyramids. Oh my God, they're so cute. And sometimes they're, you know, big, huge rock chunks. Like, you know, in Sonoma County, you know, you can find big, huge chunks of salt that are on the side of a, you know, cliff, you know, and then those we grind down and they're solar dried, you know, but that's the value of some of the things in your kitchen, you know, the spices you haven't used, and start playing with those. Like, what, you're going to fail? How are you going to fail with spices? Maybe your meal doesn't taste the best. Maybe you didn't put enough spice because you were being really like cautious. Maybe you put too much spice and you're going to be like, oh, I'll never do that again. But the whole point is you won't do it again. So all you got to do is let yourself play and just like, don't set yourself up for failure. If you don't fail, I mean, if you fail, you know, who cares? You know, now you learned and you won't do it again. And so I just wanted to bring forward here this beautiful idea about some of the things that are right under your nose. And you may have gotten so used to using that salt that you're just not recognizing anymore that it's pretty powerful stuff, you know, and so just how can you make sure that you have the hydration and the river flowing? Salt. You have all of your herbaceous herbs that are more lung respiratory. Those are those fresh herbs. And then what powdered spices globally from around the world? Like you get to go around the world today if you clean out your spice, you know, area, you know, and see what do you have. Like you get to go around the world at a time when we can't even travel right now, you know, And just really, how do you start playing with that and letting yourself just really feel it? And now's the time for citrus. So when we took my little tour, right, around my kitchen, I showed you the jalapeno and I showed you the citruses and the green apples. Okay. So the citrus is seasonal and it's vitamin C specific. So that is how we slough and clear out our immunity from winter to spring. So you really want to go off on those limes, lemons, grapefruit, oranges, blood oranges, tangerine, mandarin. Like you really want to do those right now because they are specific to what's growing seasonally. And vitamin C, don't you want that for your immune system? Better to get it from fruit. Same with pomegranate than to, take a bunch of capsules and then the vitamin C is a standalone and it can rip up your stomach and you might take too much because vitamin C doesn't stand alone in nature. No vitamins or minerals do. And then the other thing for spices, before I go into it, just a couple essential oils I wanted to talk about. I don't know that they'd be in your kitchen. So there's a little part of me that's like, oh, am I going too off topic? But I just want to make a couple more mentions, okay? Because I love my kitchen. I hope you can feel it. Okay. One is you can start cross culture doing spices. Okay. Like for instance, I'll make a curry. And one of the things I put in my curry spices is I add caraway and allspice, but there is not normally caraway from Germany and Eastern Europe and allspice also from Eastern Europe, but it's also in India. But most people are not going to put those together, but I just put it in a background and someone's like, oh, what makes your curry so pungent? And yet it's not overly, how did you build that much aromatic pungency? And I just kind of went outside of the culture and added a little something in there, that is not normally there. And where this all started was I was doing dill and sumac. So I kept putting dill and sumac together and I mix it in olive oil and I put spices in my oils in my fridge. And then when I go to use it, I've got my own spiced oil, but I kept making this dill sumac oil. And I kept being like, oh, I'm going to Eastern European dill and also USA dill. And I'm also going sumac, which is Middle Eastern. But then it was hilarious. I thought I was so doing this great thing. And then somebody from the Middle East said, excuse me, do you know za'atar is dill and sumac? I was like, oh, so dill and sumac has already been discovered and utilized together in the Middle East. And it's actually a foundation of their food, those flavors together. So play cross culture. You know what I mean? Like mix it up. Like you don't have to just make Thai food or Indian food. You can make Middle Eastern, Russian food if you want. So just spices from around the world can play together. And they're very good at playing together and more than I ever imagined, So I want to just encourage you to make your own spice blends and really be thinking about, what is your blend? Just make sure it's warm right now so that you get a little more of that cleansing. We deal with this little bit of more cold, and we're also thinking more about what do our immune systems need in this moment. So go a little warmer than usual. It's okay to do some cardio and break a deeper sweat. That's also something that's great because we're sitting around in our homes a little bit more. So why not, just really get that sweat moving. Okay, so now we've talked about the spices and the fresh herbs and what to do with old spices and the fridge. I hope I said enough about herbs to broth, like using tulsi, brahmi, bilva, triphala, ashwagandha. All of these things can be layered right into a soup or a curry or a pesto or a salad dressing. And, as long as you don't overuse those, they're going to add to the earthiness of your meal instead of just overpower it. And if you overpower a meal again, you won't do it again. So, that'll only be one meal in time and you'll have learned for the rest of your life. You have many more meals to go, So the one I said I would mention in case I was going to forget, but I didn't, is Chatavari. Okay. Chatavari, Shatavari, Chatavari. Okay. Absolute prized herb of India. Okay. It's used the root. It's used in anything that's about glandular health, so endocrine system, and it's used for like nutritives to all of your tissues and oxygen to your cells, and it's known as a reproductive herb for male or female, so it doesn't matter. It's for all people. And it's slightly cooling, but still it is very enzymatic, and it's got a nice little sweet, little sour flavor to it, if you ask me. So it's not a hard one to add into a salad dressing with some apple cider vinegar. So I use it a lot in dressings because it's like, I won't even know it's there, but I certainly know the medicine is. But Chatavari is the most common house plant that probably many of us, me, grew up with. Okay. At the front entrance, it is still there. Literally, they even moved it to their new house 22 years ago. My whole life, there has been this fern. Those really spindly ferns that have the tiny little multiple leaves and they grow really kind of long. It's a tiny fern. It was at the front entrance of our door at home my whole life. And now I go to my dad's. I'm like, oh my gosh, that thing just never stops growing no matter what. And that is Chatavari. Believe it or not, that is Chatavari. So that is the Chatavari rhizome. If we put it in a pot, it's not going to trail like it will in a garden, and you're not going to get the length and the volume of root that you need because we don't eat the leaf, we eat the root. We eat the roof. We eat the root, but you can take that house plant and you could put it in the ground, and those roots place so friendly with other roots in the garden. They don't even take over, and they kind of live amongst anybody. Dr. Gupta has taught me a lot about this plant in his garden in India. And when I first saw it in his garden, I was like, that looks like the fern house plant at my front door. And he said, you know what, when I was in India, because I sponsored him to come over his first time, he said, when I was in America, like I saw a lot of these, but they were just house plants. And I was like, yes, we had one of those. And he confirmed this is the same exact plant. So I just find that interesting that, we've taken the prized kind of, everybody plant of Ayurveda, and it's a house plant just kind of sitting on our front porches. So really think about utilizing that, and maybe think about putting that in your garden, and let it really trail out. And then you just cut some of those roots back, and it makes a beautiful medicated oil. And it also makes just a really beautiful fresh tea. And when I do have access to the fresh root, it juices well. And it also, you can cook with it like burdock. Like you can chop it up just like a burdock root, and you can add it to your food or grate it on your food, because burdock, turmeric, and Chatavari are amazing fresh roots. I don't have Chatavari right now, and it's kind of silly I don't. But I do get burdock and turmeric root at the store, and I just grate that on everything I have. Like I have both of those in my fridge right now, and they're super immunity and keep your liver healthy. Okay. So I have about 8 more minutes in me, telling you what I wanted to tell you today. And then I'm going to start taking some of the questions I've seen here. And what I wanted to discuss was a few essential oils. Okay. I'm going to start with some that might be literally right under your nose. Okay. And see if you have these. Some of them may be a little more obscured, and you may need to, figure out how to get them on your next trip to the store, or, or see what that looks like. But I wanted to mention some that might be there. So the first one is going to be lavender. Okay. So how many people have lavender in their, I have it in my backyard and I have one I just found in the cupboard, and I have one in the bathroom. And I'm going to be honest, and some of you are laughing right now because most people know I'm not like the hugest fan of the smell of lavender. I have a whole little story, but I know the value of lavender. I do keep it in my home for its value. So what does it do? It moves the lymph and it clears out your liver as a bitter. So it is what's called hepatic, right? Hepatic is anything that is going to support the liver. So it is also because right now people are having symptoms of allergies and they're worried that they have a virus. So lavender is one of the most brilliant antihistamines that I have found. I mean, like I tell people, I just did this a couple weeks ago at the center, and someone was like, what do I do? It's so bad this year. And I got to say, allergies are bad this year, it seems like, for people. And I said, hey, get on 10 drops of lavender twice a day and put it just right on your liver, which is your right rib cage. And let's see if that doesn't lower it. You can do 10 drops 3 times a day, but that's not going to be sustainable for more than a couple days. So you can do 10 drops, 10 drops 3 times a day for like, maybe 3 or 4 days. And then you're going to want to kind of start lowering that amount until you're down to just 10 drops a day. And it is brilliant for slowing down that allergy response. And that's for hay fever or for food allergies. So lavender is going to be one that's really important right now in that way. The other one is elemi, E-L-E-M-I. Okay. Elemi is really inexpensive, but it is kind of the new Ravensara. If you have Ravensara in your cupboard, you are a lucky person right now because it is not easy to find. So you also want to use it wisely, But elemi is my new Ravensara, and it's brilliant. I'm super happy with it. It's also more kid friendly, and it's safe for pregnancy in like really tiny doses, like 4 drops a day. But if you feel like you're getting sick and you want to kind of nip it in the bud, rather that be just like, uh-oh, I have a sinus infection. And that's really important. And then if you feel like, you have been around someone who's contagious, I would, and you really feel that's true, I'd be on a good 10 drops of elemi 4 times a day. And I would know I'm probably going to get dry, but I would want to kick my immune system into gear. And I'd want to track myself very closely from there. And so elemi is going to be the one I'm mentioning to you that is kind of what we think of as an antibiotic of the plant world. And the other antibiotic of the plant world is also myrtle, okay? Green myrtle. So green myrtle is brilliant. It's also one that is safe in pregnancy, safe with children in that tiny 4 drops a day only dose, but could be deeply effective. And it's the same dosage. So you can do up to 10 drops 3 times a day. You want to work down to just that, 10 drops, and this is when you're sick, right? If you just are like, I don't want to get sick, I just don't want to get sick. Well, then you're doing like 6 drops of myrtle 2 times a day. Okay. Where do we apply these? It goes on the warrior lymph. So all on your neck, down on your chest where our lymph drains. We have main epicenters in our armpits that you really want to make sure you get a little, and then if you shave though, do not put in your armpits right after shaving. Just want to make a note of that. And then you want to take a little bit of the extra and rub it in your ears and swab it in your mouth. There's still essential oils on your hands, even if they look dry, they're volatile gases. So you really get your fingers in there, rub in your gums, smear a little up in your nostrils, and move on. So the nice thing about essential oils is like there is no making a broth. There's no steam pot. There's, no having to figure out what to do. You're just putting the drops in your hand and you're putting it on your skin. They're transdermal. They go right into your bloodstream. They bypass the digestive tract. And you're just getting like a pack of a punch of a little bit of some plant medicine. So they're high potency. And that's why I'm making mention of them, especially if you might have these. So I'm going to mention a few others since I just have a couple minutes. Spikenard. might be in your cupboard. And spikenard would be that same exact dosaging. And it's a little bit more for like amoebas, parasites, antiviral, okay? Not just general microbe antibiotic. So it's going to be a little bit more specific for something that you're fighting in the gut, but still very effective on every level, including for the lungs. And then I'm going to mention two others, Nioli. Okay, now I didn't say neroli. Okay, I said Nioli. So I'm actually going to spell it. Let me look at it. Oh, I know. Niaouli. Niaouli. Nioli. Okay. Nioli is dirt cheap. The other one is Cajaput. And it's also super inexpensive. Cajaput. Cajeput. Cajeput. So Nioli and Cajaput are both really, really warm. Like if you even smell them out of the bottle, they have this heat in your mouth, but they have this heat and they get down and they migrate down and they start breaking up all the dams in the river and they start infiltrating your lymphatic system. And they are really high impact for people who are having like the chills or getting cold. And so those are going to be the warmer of the two. In fact, Cajaput, Nioli, and Myrtle are the three that are really warm and pungent. And that means they're going to like drive themselves deeper into your system, kind of like a defense system. They're a little more warrior up, so they're very active, and you're not going to need to use as much of the Nioli or Cajaput. You're going to maybe need 4 drops as an adult. These are not kid friendly. But as an adult, you're going to need maybe 4 drops 3 times a day. So you're going to need to use less. When you smell an essential oil and it's like, boosh, know to use less, just like our spices, we eat them to taste. Trust what you taste. Salt, trust your salt to taste. Well, same with those essential oils. If it's like taken over your head in smell, you know that you don't need as high of a dose to use them. The last little thing about that Nioli and Cajaput, and in case you have it or you find that in the store and take it home, is you need to put like a little salve or a little olive oil or coconut oil, but you need to make a little layer of oil on your hand and then put a couple of those 4 drops in your hand. And then you're going to need to make an oil rub with it. Okay. Because if you put them straight on your skin over and over, those 2 only, but if you put those on your skin, they could start kind of giving you a rash or turning you really bright red. So you just need to dilute them a little bit and massage, which is always good for the immune system, Okay. So, oh my gosh, I covered so much more than I thought I was going to be able to cover in this time. I wrote it all down and I was like, ooh, this one's going to be hard. So, wow, lots of questions. Let me see. And hello, lovelies who I know. Let's see. Those are the best quality, all the DC stuff. Oh, thank you. I love the quality of what we have. I work really hard at that, actually. I've been doing that for years. It's such a important thing for me with the plants and the spices. Like, I want to respect the plants, so I want to make sure they're really rocking. I don't know if y'all know this, but I have a turmeric powder, and I also have cardamom pods that are original origin, like meaning they're heirloom. I have heirloom turmeric and cardamom. Yes, they cost more, but oh my gosh, cooking with those, you're using less. And I just love that they're one origin. Oh, Drea. Yes, I don't know if you noticed in my kitchen, but I have a grinder collection, right? So I have all my grinders. Okay. Now my mom started this. She gave me a Turkish coffee grinder, which you may have seen when we were looking at the salts over there next to my stove. And it was for coffee, but I ended up wanting to put my black pepper in there because I'm a massive fan of black pepper, and so is my mom. And we were like, my dad is always making fun of like how much black pepper we just like, bam, 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 and I still do that. And so I put black pepper in a Turkish coffee grinder, those beautiful brass ones. And then Scott bought me another one later in our relationship. And I turned that one into the next spice that I adore and use in everything because it's the most community player spice of all time, coriander. And so I have a spice grinder with coriander. Let me tell you what's in my spice grinders. I have black pepper. I have a grinder for coriander. I have a grinder for cumin. I have a grinder for fennel seed. I have a grinder for star anise, because you can't figure out how to grind that one, but it's super soft enough to grind. And I have one with cinnamon chunks, so I can grind fresh ground cinnamon powder. And I feel like I have one more, and I can't remember. Oh, I have one that is also celery seed. And so that's what I do. You know, I have the whole seed, I put them in the grinders, and then I have all these beautiful grinders to choose from. And then I just fresh grind when I'm making a soup. And, you know, I'm going to get the most flavor, and I'm also going to make sure they last the longest in my kitchen. Oh, I have a 4-year-old burdock fennel seed honey. Oh, girlfriend, I wish I was there. I would be so partaking in that 4-year-old honey. That honey is so beautiful. Honey is like vintage wine or an old vintage essential oil. So, oh, I'm all about it. Like that is just going to be precious stuff. You should so get that going. Yeah. So if there's not many fresh herbs in the city, is powdered or dried okay? Yes. Yes. Like if you add a dried oregano or dry thyme or dry rosemary, you don't have any more of the essential oil like aromatic medicine, which is out of organic chemistry. But you still have all the Western herbalism forms of chemistry that are straight chemistry, the tannins and all the bitters and the carminatives, all the things that are digestive. The only thing I'd say about fresh herbs that are dried is they don't last as long as a lot of those deeply pungent kind of curry related spices. So how old is it? And if I have a dried spice that's over a year old and it hasn't been in the dark, I'm probably more going to make a bath tea out of that. You know, I'm probably not going to think of that as like going to have the best, strongest flavor or medicine quality. Yep, a lot of dry stomach on the pulse. I am so in agreement. Oh, you were all being so sweet to me. Oh yeah. I love making chutneys out of New Mexican chilies with Indian spices. I'm in total agreement here. It is a perfect mashup, you know, and just taking all those flavors from Central and South America and Mexico and New Mexico, and taking all of those flavor profiles with things that are from India or the Middle East. Easy making of new blends that don't exist yet. Oh, how cute. I'm being asked to do another one of these that is like what's in the bathroom. So yeah, you know, it's funny. That thought when I started like talking about my bathroom, and I was like, this sounds like another episode. So yeah, I hear you on that one. Okay, so there's a question about roasting spices. Yeah. So when you are roasting spices, there is a little trick to this. If it's a seed spice, like a whole seed, like say you took whole coriander, cumin, and fennel, when you go to roast it, you got to go really low because you don't want that whole seed to burn. So you're going to have to go low heat, and you're going to have to just keep simmering, and keep moving it around. And then pretty soon you're going to get just the tiniest little smoke that lifts. Turn it off, take that pot right off that burner, and you're done. And get them out of that container, put them in a bowl. So same thing with powdered herbs. You're going to have to go really low, really slow. The different with powdered herbs, you're not going to leave that thing at all. You're going to stir, 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 mix, fluff, mix, stir. The moment you see smoke on a powdered herb, you are probably already close to burning. So you're going to have like a moment. You're going to have a second to make that decision. So you want to go really low, and you want to have that bowl ready, and you just want to kind of like keep an eye out, or it's going to burn really, really fast. Yeah. So would we organize spices into hot, wet, cold, dry? So yes. I think, Jean, I do this on the regular in my body mapping class, which is hopefully starting soon. It's in the calendar, but we'll see what happens. And I might just take it online. So I have a lot of places where I break those hot, cold, wet, dry. What I chose to give you as a handout for this specific class was more my, I think it's like a 2 or 3 pager that more talks about dried herbs and combining them into Vata Pitta Kapha, and fresh herbs and which ones are Vata Pitta Kapha. So that's about as far as I took it for this small webinar. I considered putting in all my master pages of all my spices, but I feel like it's a little more important just to start knowing how to blend and get started in this specific webinar. So what I would suggest to you is, first off, you've gone to body mapping, so you could look back at your list and you would absolutely find that list of hot, cold, wet, dry, or for somebody who hasn't taken my body mapping or my clinical class, you might want to consider continuing to study with me, because I have all those master, and years and years of research, and my mastered lists that are taking every single spice, every food, every protein, every fat, every carb, every fresh, every dried herb, every essential oil, everything I do in my series of body mapping and my clinical program are designed to teach you which ones are hot, cold, wet, dry. But what I suggest for now is trust your taste buds. So you should go through every spice you have, because you want to, be able to think for yourself and kind of make those decisions. But put every spice in your mouth and have a little list, and which one was hot, which one was not, which one dried out your tongue, which one, which is usually astringent, and it means they're more drying, which one made you salivate. Usually those are going to be the things like celery seed that are more salty, and then they're more hydrating, and which one tasted bitter, which one tasted sour, so I would really highly suggest that you kind of start thinking which ones are hot, which ones are cold, which ones are wet, which ones are dry, and really kind of come up with those ideas. And then you can get started from the list that I mentioned for y'all. Let's see what else is here. Everyone's saying such beautiful things. Oh, Catherine. So you can't use the same grinder? I'm not sure what that means. Like the grinders have each spice in them, so that I can just like use as I need to as I'm cooking, grab one or grab the other. So you can't use the same grinder because it would be so time consuming. Like you would have to empty the grinder. Grinders are not designed to be like washed all the time. There's too many parts in a grinder and you're going to get mold. So you're going to need a different grinder to keep your herbs dry. And if I had a cumin grinder and then I put coriander in there, I'm absolutely going to have the smell of cumin no matter how long I use that grinder. So that's why they're in separate. But you're bringing up a fun little idea that I've never tried. So maybe you're starting something new as usual, which is, what if you did a coriander, cumin, fennel grinder? So you could add some black pepper and salt to that too. And I've definitely done that in a grinder where I did my black pepper and my salt, and it's just like boom, boom, boom. Here we go, doing both right now. So you're bringing up a really fun part of like, what is it to make a blend in a grinder, right? So I like this. That is really cool. Okay, could I mention the spices and the herbs that build HCl? So what is HCl? Let's establish that for everyone here. So HCl is hydrochloric acid, okay? Hydrochloric acid is all of the acids in your stomach that build with the enzymes of amylase in your mouth, and everything enzymatically with chewing and saliva go down into your stomach. And then your stomach has three primary, very important enzymes to consider. And one is going to be hydrochloric acid, which is the heating element of your stomach, which I call the compost pile. And then you're also going to need pepsin. And pepsin is the alkalizing agent that is needed in your stomach. And then the other one is going to be mucin, which is the flora, the mucus lining where our immunity and our pepsin and our hydrochloric acid live. So what are some of the spices that are hydrochloric acid specific? First and foremost is going to be Asafoetida. And Asafoetida hasn't been mentioned here yet, which is kind of interesting since I do use it. It's used a pinch at a time. You will ruin a meal if you don't know how to work with Asafoetida. And I will say, if you have Asafoetida in your cupboard, it's probably sealed in a jar and you don't open it because it has a very strong smell and it'll take over your spice jar, like your spice drawer, in a second. So you want that one tightly sealed in a jar. I'm going to see if I can move here and see if the lighting is a little better this way. Let's check this out. There's my kitchen again. I love my kitchen. It's such my friend. I love it. Okay, I think that's better. Let's just turn off this little light. Hi, everyone. Okay, feeling good. A little bit better in the lighting. Okay, so let's see what else we have in questions. Asafoetida was the HCl. Oh, let me make a mention of something else that might be cool to know. So ginger is very well known for being one of the precursors and the enzymes needed to actually enkindle fire in the stomach, which then leads to HCl. So I think that, you know, we can be thinking about ginger in this building of our stomach fire when needed. And why would you need HCl anyway for someone new to this idea? Well, it's what enkindles the fire to make sure you're breaking your food down into liquid, which is how we absorb it. So it's really for people with low metabolism or absorption issues, and they need a little bit more, you know, fire in their gut. The other one is going to be all your chiles. Every chile you can think of. And the other thing that builds up hydrochloric acid that's like really being hugely discussed right now is celery, you know. I don't have exactly the same exact response because I do celery juicing every day of my life. I don't find it to build a fire because celery is so beautifully alkaline, but it does have the precursor enzymes that are needed to even think about enkindling a fire. So think of it as like the air in the logs that you need for a fire to get started, right? So those are your enzymatics. So I would pair celery with like ginger or chiles, you know, or something of that sort when you're doing your juicing of celery. And you're going to need a lot of celery to get this done. So it's going to need to be not just eating it, but juicing it. Yeah, ginger is such a massive, great, beautiful one. It's amazing. Yeah, ginger is a synergist. I think that's probably a great way to be looking at this concept. And what do we mean by synergist? I think probably the word we're all using a lot here is it's an adaptogen. So its job is to go in and to get all of your synergy, all the parts of you working together, so that, you know, you're one big whole body community, and you're not just, hey, these are kidneys, and hey, this is liver, and by the way, blood, you're just blood, you know. So blood gets everywhere. It supports everybody. Your immune system is everywhere, and your blood is everywhere, feeding every organ, every channel, every tissue, every gland, every part of your brain, all of your nervous systems, everything. So when we look at something that is an adaptogen or synergistic, we are looking at this idea that it kind of supports the all, you know, whole body. If I think of any one spice that I think of as like my whole body is getting something, I have to say that would most definitely be ginger. And I have another one that I use a lot more than other people do that hasn't been mentioned yet. And it's actually the cooling counterpart, because ginger's hot, you know, and that would be mint and lemon balm. I think they're very underutilized. Like, I make lemon balm pesto with cilantro and fennel root, and it is brilliant. You know, it gives that real lemony green finish because it's such a clean green plant. It grows everywhere around here. So you even have to think about where you put mint or lemon balm in your garden, because it'll take over. So be more mint on that food. It goes with flavor profiles of spices from around the world. And I just think it's very underutilized. And then here we are buying mint tea bags, you know, or getting tea somewhere and being like, I'll take the mint, you know. And really, there's a lot more to mint than that. It's a beautiful adaptogen that feeds the whole body. So I think of mint as the cooling, and ginger is the heating. You know, it's the heating element. So really great. Let's see. I've been using lemon balm and mint a lot, but it affects the thyroid in large quantities. In what way do you say it affects the thyroid in large quantities? Like, because what's going on with the thyroid is dependent on how you're going to be affected. So do you want to give a little more information to that? Lemon balm does, but I'm asking, like, does it lower the thyroid? Does it raise the thyroid? Does it cause, like, what is it you've heard? It's for hypothyroid. Okay, so that's where I'm in agreement. I just wanted to get a little more in this conversation. So if you, it depresses hypothyroid. Wow, I cannot say that's something I know, and I can't say by experience that that's something I agree with. So maybe you know something in the chemistry that I don't know. I'm happy to learn. You're an amazing herbalist, so I'm happy to see if you have anything you want to teach us here, Drea, because I do trust you so much. But I use so much lemon balm and mint, and I like work with thyroid. I don't have a low thyroid, but everyone in my family does. So, oh, you're glad to hear my opinion. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so there's some conversation of this in the herbalist, in the medical herbalist community. So I think I'm probably going to have to do some research around that, and see where I stand, or see if the chemistry can explain it to me. It's just so far from what I feel with either one of them. Like, put a mint leaf in your mouth. If you had hypothyroid and you put mint in your mouth, or you put lemon balm in your mouth, I mean, hypothyroid causes depression, and we use mint and lemon balm to solve depression. So I don't know. They're pretty high metabolic functioners. I'm having a hard time figuring that out. So I'm going to have to do some research. I love being able to always have something with a different opinion. And then that's how I learn at this point, is like, oh, maybe there's something I don't know. Okay, so you feel like it's a little weird also, but it's something you've heard from some other people. So yeah, sounds like, Drea, you and I both should just take a little moment in the next week or so, and like, let's look up the chemistry of lemon balm and mint, and what would suppress the thyroid, or where would that type of a, concept come from. That'd be kind of fun, just to see if there's something in there that has that. Okay. So let me think if there's anything else we maybe want to mention. I think we've gone through all of the lovely questions. And yeah, I could do more kitchen and bathroom, living room. If I turned this picture around right now and you looked in at my living room, and actually Drea made the joke, I think 2 mornings ago, I have just a plethora. My whole entire living room table is sitting here with a beautiful plate of cuppings, and my pump, so I can put cups on whenever I'm hanging out. And I've got a gorgeous, wood carved bowl that my mom gave me. And I also have an abalone shell from my childhood, because my uncle was an abalone farmer. And so, it's just kind of interesting. I have all these old pieces that are really important to me. And that's what's holding all of my gua sha and my cuppings. And what do I do in the living room? When I'm in the living room, I've got cups on me. I'm using a gua sha. I've got a couple of massage tools, and I'm just like going at it. And then I'm resting, and I've got a couple salves out too, and then I've got all those kinds of herbs and kind of my main medicine and herbs that I'm going to ingest. I keep those in the kitchen. And then all the things that are my evening routine, which is the next 2 classes, by the way, are going to be in the bathroom. In fact, do you know that? That's kind of interesting. The next 2 classes are actually on dental care. If I've got this correct, it's on dental care tomorrow, and then it's eye care on, I hope I'm right in this right now. And then eye care is on next Sunday, right? Something like that. So you are going to be in the bathroom with me. You should join me, because I am going to be in the bathroom, and maybe I'll just show you my setup right there, because all my dental care is at my bathroom. And that's what I do before I go to bed. And all the things I do for my eyes are right before bed. So I take care of my upper channels, my mouth, my eyes, my scalp, anything upper channel related. Usually that's going to be in my evening routine, because they're things that are going to calm my mind and settle down my jaw from talking all day. And it's going to allow me to go to sleep and transition from work to home, and then to take my home into sleep, because guess what? I'm going to have to go back to work tomorrow, just like everybody else. So that sleep is everything. And what can I do, since I don't want to have to be, taking sleeping aids or something like that? I take care of my teeth and my eyes, and they put me to rest. They ground out my brain. So we will be in the bathroom together. And I really hope you all join me for those. I'm trying to remember the entire list right this moment, and for some reason it's escaping me. And we're just here in our last little moments. I'll see if anything else came up as a question. But yeah, I'll be doing dental tomorrow, and then eye care. And then I'm doing a whole piece on gua sha. Oh, now I know. So tomorrow's dental. Next Sunday, the 29th, is eye care. And then the 30th is gua sha technique. And then Tuesday, the 31st, is actually my main healthcare program, which is my weekly routine. And it's putting everything I'm teaching you in the webinars into one big swoop that you can do once a week. So let's see if there's any one last little question before we finish up here. And I certainly do hope you all join me. Oh my gosh, I just got this. Vogue has a gua sha article. That's brilliant. There's a question on honey regarding above, and how can you pair with Chatavari? Okay, so how do you pair it? Well, it's very easy to take Chatavari powder, and you just pack it in honey until that honey is hard. And you do that with any powder, whether it be seaweed, shatavari, ashwagandha, a powdered herb or spice. You powder it down, you pack it in the honey, you make a hard honey, and then you start scooping out a couple teaspoons a day as your medicine. Think of a teaspoon of your hard medicinal honey. Think of a teaspoon as a capsule, you know? So then you can do up to 2 or 4 teaspoons a day as your primary form of medicine instead of taking a pill, you know? So what a great option. And, you know, capsules and pills cost a lot more money than what I paid for the spices and the herbs that are right in my store at the DeAnna Center, you know, because somebody had to make that pill with a machine. And, you know, that changes a lot of the energy even of that medicine. I'm not opposed to someone taking pills if it's the only way you can really just quick make it happen. But unless you're, you know, somebody who's just like, give me a pill, I can't do it any other way, it's not the highest potency. You want to taste your herbs. You know, that your mouth is going to make a reaction to your brain, and that's going to make a reaction to your body. So whatever you can do to really taste these is a precious part of what we're talking about in things that are in your kitchen. So I want to say thank you so much, all of you, for joining me today. Have a beautiful, beautiful day, and hopefully I will see you again tomorrow. Hariom.